Well, for us, what we do is we teach financial literacy workshop. So our whole platform is designed to just spread financial literacy, teach things that
Mhm.
typically aren't taught to us in school or growing up. And that's actually how we got started, is because working as nurses, we started realizing that we're young, we're making good income, especially here in Northern California. You probably
Yeah,
know, the place you can make the most money as a nurse. And
right.
we're making this great income, but at the end of the day, we had nothing to show for it, right? That's when we started realizing that we needed to get better with our own money and our own finances. And we went out to go start learning things for ourselves. And we found so much value in what we were learning. We said, a lot of our own colleagues can maybe benefit from this information too. And that's how we got started.
When you said you went out and learned, what avenues did you pursue? And also the tag on, you get well paid in Northern California, but it's all here in New York quite pricey. So you're making money, but it's just going right out the window.
Correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
what avenues did you pursue on your own? Because I would imagine, like anyone else, you're curious. You're
Oh,
seeing what
yeah.
the internet can provide, what books. Like, for example, for myself, I
Yeah.
read Rich Dad Poor Dad, a book by a CPA called Tax Free Wealth. Because a lot of people watching, I always dismissed it like, oh, I'm just not a finance guy and this and that. And then I heard two words that I couldn't bear: financial illiteracy. And just the illiteracy did something to me. And I said to myself, I'm financially illiterate. I don't like the way that sounds.
Yeah.
When you were in that curious stage, where did you go to seek information?
Yeah, I mean, I started doing my own research, my own learning. Like I said, these things typically aren't taught to us. So unless someone is going to sit down and teach you these things, that person needs to go out and learn it for themselves, right? So I started just like you, Rich Dad Poor Dad. That was probably one of the first books I read. Robert Kiyosaki also has the Cash Flow Quadrant book,
I read
right?
that too. Right.
Yeah, Cash Flow Quadrant. Even some of the Dave Ramsey books I've read on it, just some of his things about minimizing debt and the debt
Mhm.
snowball and all of that really helped us improve our financial literacy. But really, what really helped us and why we decided to get started is because a friend of ours who was in the industry, in the finance industry, that's who we sat down with and just started really teaching us a lot of things that we weren't really aware of. And
Mhm.
that's when I said, you know what, this is interesting stuff. I think a lot of our own colleagues can also benefit from this
And even our own family.
in our own family. Yeah. Yeah.
I wonder if you could relate to this because obviously there's different degrees of what you don't understand about finances. What I guess what allowed me to dismiss the whole subject altogether back in the day and what really intimidated me was the tax code. And that was
Mhm.
one of the things I learned first was the difference between when you're making an income, what portfolio income is, making money off of assets, especially if you have an LLC or an S corp or something, and what you can
Mhm.
write off. And it made sense. Like not going back to Rich Dad Poor Dad. And there are other books out there, and I know some people they're even critical of that book, but it did break it down into four quadrants. And from my elementary mind in terms of finances, it gave me the confidence to continue to read. So for me, it was the tax code. I was very intimidated by it. It kept me away from the whole subject of finance in general. Was there anything like that for you? Like a part of it that you just, you dismissed, "Oh, I'll never understand that, or that's just too complicated." Was there anything like that?
I think it's the whole idea of retirement.
Yeah.
Um,
Which is
because
scary,
when we're
right?
it's
Because
very
if you
scary.
have to
Like
engage your finances, you might see that, "Oh, I'm not ready for retirement. I don't even want to think of
exactly.
that right now."
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And we saw it with our own two eyes. We saw it with our own families. So if you guys didn't notice, me and James are Filipinos. So a lot of Filipino nurses out there, and it's looking at our own community, looking at our own family, and looking at what does the end look like. And we couldn't seem to see it. And our a lot.
Filipinos. I didn't know I had anyone who was a member of the mafia here. As a former Navy guy and hospital man, the Filipino mafia is real. No, I say that in jest,
Yeah.
but
The
um,
Filipino mafia is real.
I love
Yeah.
the connection between the two, like United States and the Philippines and the whole history. And I got to tell you, when it comes to work ethic, that's all you need to tell me.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. Right? We so many family members, so many people in our own community, the Filipino community, they come here to the US, become nurses, thought the American dream for us,
Yeah.
but there did not seem to be an end in sight. And that's
Yeah.
what scared me and James the most.
Me too. My wife, she makes the bacon. I make the bacon bits as a nurse. That's how I describe it. Our kids are still toddlers, but as they get older, like it's funny with kids, as they get older and you have more space in your brain to start reclaiming some of the things you might have done before kids, or just like that meant, oh, I can think. We're really starting to explore what we could do financially. So when you did your
Yes.
research, and there was such a key what you said about having a friend in finance. We have a couple of people that we could talk to. I think that's great advice for someone who's maybe past the initial curious phase, to whether they have to get a financial advisor or not, to sit down and speak to somebody. Probably somebody, would you agree, that maybe doesn't have exactly a stake in it? Because there's financial advisors that work for a company and everything they say is ultimately going to be shaped around doing business with that
Sure.
organization.
Yeah.
What type of person would you seek out for advice on that, to that degree?
Yeah. First of all, I think it's important to sit down with someone, because the great thing about the internet today is that we have information is so readily available to us, and there's so much
Yeah.
information out there. Anyone can do their own research. That also has its drawbacks, because you don't know that there's so much that you could get overwhelmed, and you
There's
don't
a
know
lot of
what
gurus out there too.
exactly, right? And you don't know who to trust, who to listen to. So talking to someone, I think, is important. Who to look for, I think, is someone that is what we call fiduciary, right? Someone that has your best interest, someone that, isn't just looking out for the best interest of themselves. Because a lot of the finance industry, some of it's a lot based on commissions and assets under
Yeah.
management. And that's what a lot of people are chasing after. So I think
Right.
someone that just has a client's best interest definitely is who you would look for.
Is that something that you and your wife do now?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. There are people that we sit down with that we've just educated about financial concepts and have gotten nothing in return. And they didn't do business with us. They didn't open up any plans with us, but at least we can help educate them, and they could take that information and do what they want with it. Or our free financial literacy workshops we have. People can come in. It's just very educational. They can come in, and then it's up to them whether they want to take advantage of the things that we're teaching or not.
I
Right.
want to get more into that, but before, what were some of the steps you took now that you were past the curious phase? You spoke to a professional who gave you information. What were some of the steps you took when you felt confident enough?
In terms of our own finance, or in terms of like
Yeah, yeah,
business, or
yeah. I would assume you didn't want to necessarily park your money anymore. You want to
oh,
kind
I
of
see. Yeah,
enter that
yeah,
world of
yeah,
finance. What can I invest in? What were some of the initial
yeah,
things? Now putting your quote, no pun intended, money where your mouth is.
correct. Yeah, go ahead,
I
Angie.
we had to face the elephant in the room. It's
Mm.
just getting on the scale and just looking at where you're at. So the first thing we did was we had to really look at our own stuff, look at where everything is. Because what happened was that we were just putting money away blindly. Because everybody was like, hey, just max your 401k, you should be good to go. And so that was what was happening with us back then. We
Yeah.
maxed out our 401ks and it was a free for all after that. Nothing else. What we ended up doing is we ended up doing a what we call a personal financial strategy. So we did an assessment of our own stuff, just laid it all out, and then just realized that what we were doing was not where we were, what was not going to get us where we wanted to be. So we
Uh,
had to change things up, started using different strategies and really honing in on that knowledge, not just having the knowledge there and then hope to God that it will work.
Yeah.